Okay, I'm recording this session here, so let's just give you a snapshot of what we're going to be working through on this activity. If we go back to our e-facilitator page, the planned activity for tonight is this weather records activity just there. Now, when you click on that weather records exercise right there, you're going to get a page of instructions. I would advise you, even though I hate the idea of burning up paper, printing, probably print it so you've got something next to you to refer to as you go through it. It's a fairly long and involved activity. When you open up that document, this is what you're going to get. It's a set of instructions, very, very short and to the point instructions, and it covers a whole range of skills. Formulas and functions, some formatting. Down the bottom here we've got charts, printing, validation and protection, and then templates. So it's quite an involved activity, this one, so be ready for that. Now what I'm going to do is record working through it. It will take a little while. I may even do this over maybe 2 recordings, just because it might end up a little big and we might need some question time. We're going to demonstrate this. If you have the ability to have a laptop going and sort of follow along and have a go yourself on the fly, great. Otherwise, my advice is just sort of tune in, try and pay attention and take a few quick notes, but also know that you've got the recording to go back to and have a look if you get a bit stuck. So first step, what we need to do is this weather XLS spreadsheet. This is the activity file. Now, rather than just click on it, right mouse click on it, and what I want you to do is save link as or save target as. Now that just means you're going to save the file somewhere onto your computer so you can open it up from there. Don't just click on it because that'll remove that page. So I've saved that away into my e-facilitator folder right there. It's called weather.xls. Now just like all the cooking shows, I just happen to have one that I've already gone in and I've opened up that file that we can have a look at. So it's a very simple activity, but there's a lot of steps, so we're going to work our way through it. So if we have a look at what this activity is, and we're going to go through our notes in a minute, but just for a start, let's just have a look at the structure of this spreadsheet that we're working through. So what we have here is some weather records. And you can see I assume that's a town called Dunmovin, and for July 2003, I'm assuming that is, yes it is, we're looking at each day of the month, the minimum temperature in Celsius, the maximum temperature in Celsius, and how much rainfall they've had. So it's a very simple set of data, isn't it? Now if we roll on down through that page, down the bottom down here, you can see we obviously want to do some statistical analysis. So, what's the total? And I assume it's going to have to be the total of the rainfall because adding up the temperatures doesn't make a whole heap of difference to anybody, does it? But it's probably very important to understand what's the average minimum temperature and the average maximum temperature.
What about averaging it?
Absolutely. Statistical stuff like average, minimum and maximum. So you can see in terms of structure, it's a very simple spreadsheet, but we just want to get some answers from it. We want to analyse that data. So if you go back to your question sheet, and I'm going to work from my printed copy here, it says enter the formulas as follows. So what it says straight away is, all right, calculate the sum of the rainfall and put that into cell D38. Calculate the averages, the average of both temperature columns and the rainfall columns. So we need the total for the rain, all of the averages, all of the minimums and all the maximums. So straight away we need to do some analysis, don't we? So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to jump into the spreadsheet so we can step our way through. Now, for those of you that are online, put some questions into chat. Every once in a while I'll quickly jump back here and I'll just see if there's any questions that are really, really pending on that one. In fact, I'll make that a bit bigger. Okay, back to my spreadsheet. Now, I've got a few tips for you. Number one, yes, for anyone that's done any spreadsheet work at all, we can always go and cheat because we've got this little U-Butte feature up here called the auto sum. Now what auto sum is that when you click on that or click on the drop down and choose sum, it has a guess and it says, okay, let's go and put a function in for you to work that out. Now, I've got a problem with that. Now, in this case here, if I just roll up, it did work perfectly, didn't it? In that it's highlighted the entire set of all the rainfall. It's typed in equals sum, D7, colon, D37. But here's my drama. I'm just going to hit escape. I want to show you what goes badly wrong with this. Let's say, for example, that one there, they're only 0, aren't they? Let's say that somebody forgot to type something in there. I want to show you what goes really badly wrong with using auto features. Now, if I come along and hit sum, everybody looks at that and says, you beauty, that's going to work perfectly. But I want to show you what just went wrong. All of these auto features are designed to look at a set of data and pick up all of the values until it hits a major change. So a gap in the data, a word that's in the way, like a column heading, but that's where it stops. But you would not believe the number of times I've seen people trying to analyse data, getting the wrong results, and what's happening is they've become very, very dependent on using the cheap methods, the auto features. So here's tip number 1 for you. Don't use the auto features unless you're going to double check your work and make sure you're right.
So even if you put a 0 in there, it'll still use
No, if it's a 0, it'll go through perfectly.
Yeah,
but this sort of scenario here is incredibly common.
Yeah.
Incredibly common. And I want to show you what my alternative is. I don't think anybody should ever use auto features until they understand how to do it manually. The way I would approach that here is click in there, I'd type it in using my keyboard, which is just what I'm doing, equals sum. Now, if I knew what the cell range was, I could just type it in, but if I can't remember, I can just highlight it myself manually. But the advantage of this is now I have done it myself and I've visualised it and I know I've got the right set of data. Close my brackets and press enter, and there's my sum feature. So there's tip number 1. Be very, very careful using auto features because it can suck you into this false sense of security. You click it, you see it's highlighted something, you think, oh, that'll be okay, and off you go. So please be careful on that one. So there we go, that one's working. Now I need some averages. So again, I could come across here and do this trick, drop that down, and I could choose average. It's okay doing that, but listen, just make sure you go up here and check it got the whole set of data. In this case here, it went a little bit too far. So if I just go and highlight it myself, it'll override it. So it's not that I never use auto features, but it's a lot easier if you just go through and make sure it's right. Let's get the minimum. I'm going to do it manually, equals minimum. Now, I've already got my head around it. It's from cell B7, colon to B37. So I'm just typing that straight in. Learning to type your formulas yourself is great practice for you understanding syntax. So straight away, I've made a mistake, haven't I? And it's got a hash symbol. It's got hash and name. And straight away, it's got a little exclamation mark here. So if you have a look at that, it says an invalid name error. Now, I'll tell you what I've done wrong. It's not called equals minimum, it's equals min. But can you see how easy it is to make mistakes?
Because they abbreviate.
They abbreviate. And yet if you did the same activity in other software packages, that would work perfectly. So that's the other thing I wanted to show you. If you're ever not sure what's the structure of what you're trying to put in, see this little FX button up here? That's the insert function wizard. So when you go into that insert function wizard, if you can't quite remember, hey, what's the syntax of how I'm supposed to type it, jump in up here, type in what you're looking for, minimum, just click go, and now it tells you all the different functions that are something to do with minimum values. And here it is here, min, number 1, number 2, aha, there's my mental jog, I know what's going on. Now the nice thing is if you choose the one you want and choose OK, it now will help you go through and ask you questions of, hey, what do you want to do? So in here, where it's got number 1, you can see I could go and highlight using this little box over here. So I'm going to choose that, and if I just highlight the set of data again, press enter, you can see it's put the range in for me, and I choose OK. So can you see now that I've actually used 3 different methods of putting functions in? They all work. They all work great. You just need to be conscious to error check. Let's do one more one here. I want the maximum. So I'm going to use auto sum again. I'll use the auto maximum, that one. Now, look at the drama again. Straight away it's highlighted the wrong set of data. That's okay, I can just highlight it. So what I'm looking for in this activity, the reason I chose that one for you, I wanted to show you that there's lots of ways of you putting those functions in, and there are advantages and disadvantages of each one. Let's just jump back, see if anyone's got any questions on that. Okay, Sue's going to have to listen to the recording, got a few dramas there. I'll just quickly check. For those of you online, can you either just give me a thumbs up in the dialogue there, or just give me a quick message? Sue seems pretty happy, she's loving it. I just want to check that everybody's receiving the signal okay, that it's reasonable. No problems there. Okay, terrific. So you're going to see that as we go through these activities, I'm deliberately going to show you a variety of different techniques, and I'm trying to highlight 2 different things for you. I want to highlight and warn you of the common problems that go wrong, and I also want to go and highlight some really good quick shortcuts that you will learn from that will stop you making, stop you being too dependent on just the auto sum and auto functions. Okay, and you can see in here, but not understanding. And I suspect as you go back through and have a go at it yourself and watch the recording at the same time, I think it's going to work a lot better for you. Again, the other thing is, remember on Thursday nights we're going to have tutorial support. So if you've had a go at it and if you're stuck with some parts of it, you can talk to me online and we can work our way through it. So I'm very confident we can make that work. Okay, and no experience with Excel. Oh, okay. In that case, Anne, I'm going to make sure I give you some other notes to help you with that as well. Alrighty, Joe's in the same boat. Actually, I'll show you right now while I'm here. Can I suggest for the other thing you're going to find is that as I go through and show you certain shortcuts, if you're a bit stuck, you're bound to have workmates that can give you a bit of a hand on the side as well.
George, if I download all this stuff onto my laptop and bring it with me on Thursday, well, I won't get here this Thursday night, but if I download it because I can't get the net here, download it and then just
over and copy that. Now, it's what they call relative cell referencing. See up here, if you read it, it's the average of B7 to B37. But hey, the software is pretty smart. As I've copied it across, it says, hang on a second, I'm no longer in column B, I'm actually in column C, so I better change the function for them. So the software is very clever in terms of applying what they call relative cell referencing to help you. And of course, when you get across to this one, guess what? It's going to show the average of column D. Works beautifully. Now, where it gets really great is you can highlight all of those if you wanted to and copy them straight across in one hit. So big time saver. Just while I'm at it, let's show you a couple of variations so that you're aware of how else you can approach it. That's just using this sort of pull across with that handle. The other one, good old-fashioned Control-C on the keyboard is copy. Control-C, just like we do in other programs. If we jump across to that cell there and use Control-V, straight away it's pasted in the updated function as well. And again, it's still aware, because of this relative cell referencing, it's made the change. So I have a whole range of different copy and paste options to look at. I won't go through all of them in the recording, but I will show you those later on. So straight away I've got all my answers coming through pretty well.
Well, that's a really neat way of doing, you know, if you had 5 or 6 columns.
Oh yeah.
You just pull the thing across and boy,
it's quick and it's convenient, but again, for you to get that working for you, you need to understand the limitations of the software. What are the things that could go wrong so you can do that? It's that exact technique. That's how you see people create these huge big cash flow budget type operations on spreadsheets, because you put in one column of formulas, you copy it through for every other month of the year, and there's your solution straight away. Very quick. So that's a couple of quick ones there. I'll just see if there's any questions waiting for me. Anne's being sarcastic with me. 50 pages, I can hardly wait. Christine wants to know, will all this work okay on Word for Mac? Yeah, it should. I'm sure you can get Excel for Mac as well.
Yeah, it's part of the Microsoft package.
Yeah. And you know what, the only difference, Christine, is it won't be Windows button or Control copy. It'll be, I think it's Apple copy, isn't it? Or what's the little symbol? Command copy. That's how you'll make it work. So yeah, not a drama, that will work for you. Now, back to our activity. Looks to me like I've just gone and solved all the formula ones. So if you look at the question that we started with where it says, you know, use formulas, I've just done all of those. And I've talked far more than I've worked. If we were just concentrating on getting that done, that's like a minute's work. Very, very quick and easy once you know the shortcuts. Now, we're down to some formatting features. We're going to make this a little bit smarter. So if we look at the actual question that we started with, so if we jump back in over here, let's have a look at that question. This one. It says, format the data for each day to show one decimal place, negative values to be shown in red. So, okay, we want to get all our formatting down to one decimal with all negatives in red. Well, we can make that happen, that's okay. And then we've got some other things here about borders. Let's come back to it. Let's go back to Excel. Again, one of the really nice things is that having put in all those formulas and all the data that's there, we can highlight the whole lot by just dragging the mouse over it and selecting it. So all I did is left click and drag. I'll show you an alternative just so you're aware. You could also use the shift button on your keyboard and an arrow key. Now we're going to come back to this little shortcut later. That is fantastic, that little shortcut, when you're dealing with very large sets of data. So that was just the shift button on the keyboard and arrow keys. To select. I didn't even touch my mouse as I did it. Once you've got the selection done, now if we wanted to format that, we have some options. We could take the cheats method and come up here and just use the comma style. But again, like a lot of these shortcut methods, it has problems with it that are hard to work with later. I would rather see you concentrate on the manual approach and become very, very confident with it, and then come back and use your shortcuts when you're aware of how they work. So I've highlighted the data. What I'm going to do is just right mouse click, and I'm going to tell it to format the cells, this option just here. So just right mouse click, format cells, and we're now going to get some choices coming up. Now by far, this is my preferred method of doing formatting, because straight away here in one dialog box, I've got access to all the different formatting features I need in one go. So what am I going to format? Well, I'm formatting numbers, so I'm going to make sure that says number. And down here, I just said it wanted one decimal place. So if you have a look at all these different options, I'm going to go with number, just because I know it works. But if you weren't sure, you click on each one of them, and you'll see it'll give you lots of examples there to sort of understand roughly what's possible. But I know it's number. Now it said 1 decimal place, so I'm going to bring that down to 1. It gives me an example. Now remember it said it wanted to show negative values in red. So down the bottom here, for negative values, in red with a minus sign. So I'm just going to choose it. Having done that, I can just choose OK, but let's just check one other thing. If I was dealing with big numbers and I wanted to have commas to indicate every 1,000, I just have to tick that box. So can you see that using this much more manual approach, whilst it may look like it takes a little bit longer, in one go you can get exactly the format you want and get it 100% right first go. So if you have a look at that now, everything is represented to 1 decimal place. Every negative value is in red and it's showing a minus symbol as well. That will save you a lot of time in the long run. Now, the dilemma is this. I know what happens. Well, actually, I'm going to go backwards. I'm just going to undo that. I know what people typically do. They come along up here and they try to use the shortcut features. So they go to the comma style, and then you see them start trying to reduce decimals with this little button here. Now, it does work, but can you see I'm now stuck? I don't even have the option to change colour. So I'd have to then go back in and do the manual method anyway. So my advice is, rather than get trapped into using these, unless you've got exactly what you want there as a shortcut, get used to doing it for yourself manually. And you're going to find it a whole heap easier in the long run. I'll just quickly put that back again. 1 decimal place, negatives in red, and job done. So I'm back to where I started. So there's the first part of my formatting done. Let's just see if we've got any questions. No questions there yet. Can I just get everybody just to give me a quick overview? Up here next to your name, I think it's up the top of your screen, right at the top of your screen, see it says set status. Can everybody just give me either a agree or disagree if this is making sense to you? So give me a green agree tick if you can understand what's going on. Give me a cross if you think this doesn't make any sense at all and George needs to wake up to himself. Okay, getting a fair few ticks, looks to me like we're under control. Anne's having a few dramas, and I'm going to help you with this on Thursday night because this might be an area where you haven't had a lot of practice, so I can give you a hand then. So bear with us, we'll get there. Okay, back to my activity. Now, if I read my instructions yet again, the second formatting thing I had to do is says create a heavy red border outline around cells A6 to D37. Make sure I can read that. So let's have a look here. I'm going to highlight again A6 through to D37. Right? And it said it wanted a heavy red border. Now again, the advantage of that manual method is I can go straight to format cells. And I'm not sure whether you noticed before, but where we had number, alignment, font, there's border for you right there. So you can see the same tool gets used multiple times. Now I'm looking for an outline, but I'm looking for a colour. I want it to be bright red, so I'm just dropping down my list of colours. I'm going to choose red. I'm going to have a heavy border, that option right there. And remember, it said outline. Now I could just click on that option there. That would actually work beautifully. But watch how clever this method is. I'm just using this section here. I want it top, left, and right. I'm deliberately leaving the right-hand side off because I want you to see what this does. I'm going to choose OK. You see now it's gone through and put the border down the left-hand side. It's put it across the top. It didn't do the right-hand side for me. So you can see straight away how much control you've got if you start using these manual methods of formatting. Much, much more precise than just using the cheat method. I need that one just there. I need the right-hand side and fill it in. And you can see now I've now got my formatting working, and if I were to go and do a print preview, if you look at it how it would turn out on paper, can you see the big heavy red border right around the section I want it? Again, it probably sounds really odd. You're probably thinking, well, hang on, if you're not using shortcuts, where are you saving time? But have you noticed that by using the traditional method, I'm getting exactly what I want first go, instead of having to do a lot of fiddling around using a shortcut and then having to fine tune it? It is actually quicker to get used to those. Okay, it says center the heading in cell A1 across cells A1 to D1. So A1 all the way through to D1, it's actually already been done. The way you center across cells is this button just here. Up there in the toolbar, it's called Merge and Center. So I'm just going to turn that off. But if you ever want to do that, highlight the range, click on that button, and it will merge and center. Again, you've got the right-click method. If you go Format Cells, you remember one of them was called Alignment. When you go to Alignment, you could actually tick Merge Cells, and you could choose in a horizontal format, Go Center. So again, you've got that manual method you can fall back to very quickly. Format the text in cell A3 as a font script, font size 24 in italics. So A3, this is this one just here, done moving, and I want that to be in a script font. So at the top I could come up here and just choose any of the script fonts. So if I wanted to, I could come down and choose, well, they've got sort of bush script or something, or Blackadder, hideous to read, but you can always do that. And I think it said, what size was it, 24? I'll be honest, I'm struggling to read this on my bit of paper. And I want it in italics, and there's my italics button. Now again, in terms of shortcuts, at that time I used all my shortcuts up here, but if I right click and go Format Cells, do you remember one's called Font? I could have actually made all of those choices there in one go. It would have been quicker than me fiddling around using the shortcuts, wouldn't it? Yet the funny thing is people keep using shortcuts. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Format the dates to show DD, 3 Ms, 4 Ys. Now, I've been a bit devious with this one. I'm going to highlight my dates. I've deliberately chosen a date format that's hard to achieve because everybody keeps trying to use the shortcuts. So I've highlighted again my dates. I'm going to right click here and I'm going to choose Format Cells. Now, I can go back to number, even though it's not really a number, it sort of is. And down here I can choose date. Now, I've got all these standard choices that I can make right there. But the trouble is, guess what? They don't have the one I've asked for, do they? And that's because I'm devious. I deliberately chose one that they don't have because I wanted to show you a really, really clever feature. See down here it has custom formats. Now this is the one I really like. Look down here, when you choose custom, it shows you an example of one. In actual fact, you can go and type in whatever format you want. So I'm going to do this trick. I'm going to put in DD. I'm going to put in, it wanted a minus sign, 3 Ms. Can you see just up here the sample? It's actually trying to construct it already. And I want 4 Ys. And there's my sample. So in one go, I've used a custom format to build exactly what I'm after. Now, we're not going to get enough time in this course to go into this in detail. These custom formats, you can do some amazing things with data using custom formatting. You've got a good help menu there to refer to, and you can always jump in there and do a Google for Excel custom formats. There's a lot of good tutorials out there about it. But I'll tell you what, there's some clever things you can do. Let's go OK. Railway tracks, right there, simply means it's not wide enough to fit it all in. And there's my custom format, exactly as I wanted it to be. So that's got me to the end of the formatting. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back, I'm just going to check for questions. I'm going to stop the recording at that. I'm going to start the next recording for the next bit. Let me just stop it, we'll take a few questions.